The announcement of a 2% increase in the minimum wage every 2 years is welcome. We do welcome that. And it is expected that any upward adjustments to this increase as it relates to this minimum wage would enable the most vulnerable to have access to a decent living wage, and that's important. Quite often we hear about the minimum wage, but what happens also, we tend to forget that the living wage is very important, and as it stands, the minimum wage that amounts to $340 per week falls below par, given the fact that there's a high cost of living that is accentuated by the high cost of food, rent, and the payment of basic utilities such as electricity and water. And I dare not left out the fact that, when we consider transportation, bus fare, when we calculate $7 times 5, at least 5-6 times a week, when you look at what is left, the take-home pay, and this is something that should be of concern. The fact also that many Barbadian households are made up of single parents and, one person working in a household, taking home $340 a week, 2-3 children. Does it really make sense? Having been the vanguard of championing the call of paternity leave, CTUSAB is pleased that the government has responded in the affirmative to this particular call. The one-off payment of $300 is not to be overly criticized, but CTUSAB hopes that this will have no bearing, none whatsoever, on the upcoming public sector wage and salary negotiations. We believe that the government should also go on beyond raising the income tax threshold for pensioners to remove the taxes paid on pensions. The imposition of 20% sales tax on snacks that contain salt can potentially impact some businesses in Barbados. This will most likely be felt by manufacturers and small vendors, with the latter who are amongst the most vulnerable, who will feel the impact the most. CTUSAB questions if this is the answer to the management of the health problem. It begs the question as to how does this match up against the lowering of VAT on some items such as stew beef, minced pork, pigtails, Vienna sausages, and the like, which for preservation purposes carry a high content of salt. On the other side, CTUSAB was expecting the government would have removed the water and sewerage tax, which as it stands is unfairly applied to most households, in that they are not attached to the sewage system. CTUSAB is also of the view that the government should have undertaken the review of the municipal solid waste tax for the purpose of arriving at whether it is not disincentive to persons who have an interest in undertaking improvements to their properties. Based on the 4% GDP growth, the buoyant growth the country has recorded, and projected growth of the economy based on the upturn in the tourism product. These are good grounds for serious consideration to be given to the level of taxation that is imposed on the citizens of this land. The budgetary presentation financial statement, in our opinion, has failed in any extensive way to address the issues of poverty alleviation, the economic empowerment of a wide cross-section of Barbadians, reducing the cost of living and inflation, and either removing or reducing in any significant way the previously imposed taxes such as sewage tax and water rates. Government has shied away from announcing any new plans to addressing the rising cost of electricity bills, telephone services, the cost of food, identifying improvements in delivering of social public service, reducing the cost of land and housing to enable every Barbadian to become land and house owners. In this budget, Barbadians would have expected that the government would have announced measures to control the high charges of house rents, the alleged issues of price gouging being experienced by consumers, and the exploitation of the public of Barbados by the banking sector.